Hey Audio Fam, CJ here from Prodigy Creations. If you're having trouble finding balance between the kick drum and the bass in your mix, today in this video I'm going to discuss some tricks and tips that you can use to help those two elements stand out more in the mix, help them compete less, and just overall have a better sounding mix. So before we get into that, I'll go ahead and show you a little sample of what I'm working on. This is a rock song that I'm currently mixing. So let me go ahead and give you a little taste. Here we go. Little grungy, high energy, fast paced rock song. Love mixing it. It's been a blast. So let me go ahead. I've soloed these kick and bass channels, and I'm going to take away these effects that I've added, the tricks that I'm about to show you. I'm taking them away to show you what these two tracks originally sounded like as is. So here's what they came to me as. It sounds okay, but it could sound better. Let me go ahead and show you what they sounded like after all the effects I added. So hopefully you can hear that by adding these effects, it really creates space. You can really hear the kick drum and the bass guitar individually. They're not taking up a lot of the same space anymore because of the processing that I've done. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive in and I'll show you what I've done. So I've got 2 tips for you to try to help balance between the kick and the bass. Tip number 1, the EQ pocket. So let me go ahead and again, we'll disable all of these and start from scratch. We'll go ahead and drag in another EQ, get an extended view going on here. So basically, EQ is a tool that we use to change the sound of an instrument. In its most basic description, that's what we're doing, is we're changing the sound of an instrument or, whatever audio source we're given. It's a tool for shaping tone, but it's also a little bit more than that, because what we're doing, yes, we're changing the sound with EQ between the kick and the bass drum, but we're doing more than that as well. We're actually creating room in the mix. So let me go ahead and get started. I'll show you what I mean. The first thing you can do, if you like, is you can add a high pass filter to the kick drum, and you don't want to go too crazy because if you don't know, this is an extreme cut to the low end. So anything behind this filter is getting completely cut out. But obviously the kick drum lies on a lot of low end. So we don't want to go too crazy. Just clear, somewhere from 30 to 50 maybe. Stay within that range. And this will help clear a lot of room for the bass guitar to live in. So if we think of all of these frequencies, not as frequencies, not as sounds, but as rooms in a home, basically what we're wanting to do is have the kick drum and the bass guitar in the same home, but we just want them to live in different rooms. So I've got the kick drum basically moved out of this room so that the bass guitar can live in there. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to boost somewhere in the low end to the kick drum. Bring out a lot of that punchiness and that energy that a kick drum brings. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a bell filter, going to boost it up a little bit, maybe even give the Q a little bit wider when we're boosting. And what we're going to do is we're going to boost, my recommendation is anywhere between 50 hertz to 80 hertz for the kick drum. We're going to boost a few dB up. And how we're going to do this, obviously I've got it boosted now, and I'm going to play back on the kick drum. And I'm just going to go through the frequencies. It's called a sweep. I'm just going to sweep through the frequencies and just rely on my ears to tell me where I should leave it and where it sounds the best. I'm going to narrow the cue a little bit actually. If you can't hear it, you can always boost it a little more. And then we'll maybe bring it down to 4 dB. So as you can hear, it brings in a little bit more of that punch, a little bit more of that boominess from the kick drum, bring in some more energy for the track. What we've basically done is we have taken the kick drum and we've moved it into this room, which is 60 hertz. We've moved it into the 60 hertz room. So now from here, what we can do, we're going to go ahead and copy this EQ. We'll go to the bass channel. We'll paste it. Make sure to get rid of this high pass filter. Just set it back to a shelf and it'll go flat. But now we're going to focus back in on this filter. So this is where we boosted it for the kick drum. So therefore, we're going to cut it on the bass channel. So before we do that, we're going to make this cue a little bit narrower. You know, whenever we're cutting, we don't want to cut away too much. So we'll just make it a little bit narrower than where we had it when we boosted it in the kick drum. And we boosted it around 4 dB, so we're going to match that or at least get close to it. And there we go. So this is what it's doing already with just that added. As you can see, it's already cleared out a lot of space. And again, this is the benefit of EQ, is that we can change how things sound, but not only that, we can balance the mix just as we've done already with these two very simple moves. We added a slight high pass filter to the kick drum, freed up a little bit of room for that bass guitar to live in. Then we boosted this. We moved the kick drum into the 60 hertz room. And then we went to the bass and reverse engineered it, basically. We took the bass out of this room so that the kick drum can live in it. But now we're going to reverse engineer it yet again. And this time we're going to find a room for the bass guitar to live in. So again, we'll take a standard bell filter. Against my better judgment, I'm going to make this cue a little bit wider again. And same thing, we're just going to filter sweep through the frequencies to tell us what sounds good, what's really going to bring this bass guitar out, make it sound nice, stand out in the mix. My suggestion is to stick around the 100 hertz to 350 hertz range to try to find a good frequency to boost for the bass guitar. But as with anything, just rely on your ears more than anything as you're doing your filter sweep. Just really listen in, really focus on what sounds good, and leave it there. So let's go ahead and try to find where we should boost this bass. So prime example, I said to stick anywhere from 100 to 350 hertz, but I actually ended up going a little bit past at 367, and that's perfectly fine. That's just a reminder that rules are made up in audio. It's all subjective. Stick to your ears more than anything, because that's what's going to make you a good mixer. So Of course, you already know the drill. Since we boosted 367 hertz in the bass guitar range at around 5 dB, we'll go to the kick, and we can actually type the frequency in if we want to. And we will narrow the Q this time. Anytime you're cutting, I suggest a narrow Q, and anytime you're boosting, I suggest a wide or, a generous width of Q. So yeah, we'll trim the Q down, and this time we will cut 5 dB out of the kick drum. We'll move the kick drum out of this room so that the bass guitar can live in it. There you go. As you can see, between the EQ of the bass and the kick, they're basically just mirror images of each other. And that's the point. We want them to be separate, but we want them to be heard. So basically you just try to find a room for each track to live in and make the other one move out. So let's do another comparison. Here's what it sounds like with the EQ, and then I'll go ahead and at some point and disable them. Here we go. There you go. As you can hear, way better than where it was before. They are keeping the low end that they need for each track, but we're also separating them into different frequency ranges. Or again, as we've been saying this entire time, we've moved them into different rooms of the same house. So that's the EQ pocket. The second tip I have for you, you might not even need it sometimes, but if you ever did want just a little bit more separation between your kick and your bass, another trick you can do, throw in a compressor on the bass track, and we're going to set it to sidechain mode. And in audio from, we're going to select our kick drum channel. So if you don't know what this means, usually a compressor we would just compress the track as is. With sidechain though, and in this instance, we're sidechaining from the kick drum to the bass. That means that this compressor will only engage when the kick drum triggers it. So every time the kick drum hits, it's going to engage this compressor. So therefore, whenever the kick drum hits, it's going to hit this compressor, and the compressor is going to turn down the bass to however much you set it to. We'll get into that here in a second. And it's going to turn it down as the kick drum is hitting so that the kick drum is, volume-wise, is above the bass guitar at all times. So obviously, we've set it up already, sidechain from kick. Go ahead and set a pretty low release time. That way it's just a quick reset of this compressor so that the bass doesn't get buried. We just want it to duck down a little bit so that the kick drum can really pop. So 2-to-1 ratio is fine, 3-to-1, whatever you want to do. Doesn't really matter, to be honest with you, because the ratio and threshold are kind of intertwined, So set the ratio to whatever, doesn't matter. But then what we are going to do intentionally is we're going to play back with both the kick and bass soloed, and I'm going to dial back this threshold. And as I do, you'll see that the GR, the gain reduction, or in other words, how much volume it's turning down. As you adjust this, keep an eye on your gain reduction. And you just want it, not too much, but just enough for the kick, again, to just pop out from beyond the bass guitar. Again, there's really no right or wrong answer. It's just another one of those things that you have to train your ears to tell you what sounds right. So yeah, let's just go ahead, play back the kick and bass. I'll dial back the threshold to where it needs to be, and we should be good. Let's go. So I'm doing that to give you an extreme example. You can really hear that compressor kick in at this setting. We don't want it to sound like that. We just want a little bit of room for the kick. So maybe something like that. So there you go, friends. Those are 2 tricks that I have for you to balance out the kick drum and the bass guitar in your mix, the EQ pocket and sidechain compression. Very good tools. I hope you found this video helpful. If you are interested in producing, mixing, or recording music and you're wondering how to get started, I've got a free gift for you, my friends. I have a free ebook called The Simple Guide to Recording Music Now in 5 Steps or Less that you can get today for absolutely free. I'll make sure to throw a link down in the video description to where you can find that. The link will take you to a landing page. All you'll have to do from there is enter in your email address, hit submit, and within minutes you're going to get this 100% free, easy to follow ebook that will help you take those first few steps into recording music. Go ahead and take that. It's absolutely free, no strings attached. If you found this video helpful, give me a like. Subscribe if you want to be a part of my audio fam. And other than that, guys, that's about all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.